I thought I'd talk a little bit today about PMT because it's actually very real for a lot of women and it really affects their lives, especially on an emotional level. Because most of the time, after they've had a big angry release at someone they love, they generally feel quite guilty afterwards. And it's difficult because PMT can occur every single month, and sometimes it may even skip a month. So it can express differently in different women, but the general symptoms tend to be having sore breasts, starting to feel quite emotional in the build up to a period, bowel changes. So the bowel can actually slow right down and then speed up at the onset of a cycle. Also, there can be different types of PMT. So there can be um, something called PMSH is the technical term, but it means that you are hyperhidrosis. You gather and hold water. So basically, all the tissues start to swell leading up to a period. So women say it's awful because 2 weeks of the month I actually can't wear the clothes that I want to wear. I'm so bloated and so swollen. And then there's some women who find that because the bowel changes and the acidity changes, that actually they're bloated and gassy and smelly wind. And actually, that can be quite embarrassing as well. And then there's other women who changes in the cervical mucus means that it's triggering thrush symptoms. So that it can be embarrassing. It can be incredibly uncomfortable, and this is happening every single month. So PMT is very real, and actually, it's very uncomfortable for a lot of women. So I just wanted to talk about the sorts of things that I do at the clinic to help with this. Firstly, good and proper testing is important. We need to see if you're estrogen dominant, if you're progesterone dominant, or perhaps you're either lacking in the hormones, or maybe your liver isn't metabolizing these effectively. So the hormones are really important. We have what's called the sex hormones, which is estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And if there's not enough of these, then people generally feel quite anxious and might even feel quite depressed. The brain is very, very sensitive to these hormones, it needs them. And testosterone levels, if they're low, then women are more likely to feel very low mood and very low libido as well. Again, that can cause real relationship issues too. But all of these hormones are created from the healthy fats, or prostaglandins are really formed from cholesterol. So we actually need cholesterol. We need to be having cholesterol in our diet in terms of saturated fat. And we also need all the healthy fats, or the essential fatty acids that you get through your eggs, your seeds, nuts, green leafy vegetables, avocados, oily fish. So we need plenty of good fats. And I think one of the issues is that people aren't consuming enough fat these days. They're worried about it making them fat. But actually, that is a myth. We really need fats. And unless you have adequate levels of cholesterol, you can't produce the sex hormones, your estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So periods will be all over the place. But the other thing is, we actually need a healthy liver because your liver has to metabolize these hormones. And if it's not able to do that, you're far more likely to get things like really bad headaches leading up to a period, swollen sore breasts, and even perhaps quite a heavy flow with your cycle as well. So you do need key nutrients. So things like zinc is really important for hormone balance, and it also supports blood sugar. So that nutrient is generally found in good quality red meats and seafood, but also in pumpkin seeds. So I really love the technique called seed cycling. So it helps to balance the zinc, it helps to balance magnesium, but also it helps with your estrogen and progesterone balance. So the first half of the cycle is when your estrogen levels are rising. First half being day one is the bleed. Second half of the cycle, or the luteal phase, is when progesterone levels are rising. So we use different seeds depending on what's required, basically. So you can Google seed cycling, but a quick rundown is days 1 to 14. You're using a tablespoon of each pumpkin and flax seeds, and you're freshly grinding them. And then you swap those day 15 to 28 for sunflower and sesame. So that helps to mimic the cycle, and actually you need to do that for a minimum of 3 months. But other important nutrients are sulfurous type foods. So this is where your broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, sprouts. Grandma was right, you've got to eat your sprouts. We need that sulfur because it actually helps the liver, and it helps the liver to metabolize the hormones appropriately. Other sulfurous foods are the alliums. So it's leek, garlic, onions, can also be really beneficial. And when I ask people, do you feel that you're eating enough, fruits and vegetables? The answer is normally yes. But when I say, do you feel there's room for improvement with the sulfurous vegetables, and I list them, the answer is always, yeah, absolutely, I do need to eat more of those. And we're supposed to have the equivalent of a head of cauliflower each day. So obviously you can range with the different vegetables, but that is the aim. So quite a lot, but that would actually help the liver with the sulfur, and it would help then your periods as well. It makes a big difference. And trying to get more of these plant proteins in is very beneficial too. At the clinic, I actually use different herbs. So herbs are wonderful because they can have a real toning effect on the uterus as well. So it was making me think of it because today I had somebody with bad PMT. This was her second visit. And she said, oh my goodness, that PM tonic is amazing. So we have PM tonic, and the aim behind this is that it's taken 10 days before the onset of a period. So I still get people doing the seed cycling. I find that really beneficial, upping the sulfurous foods, making sure there's enough good fats coming in because we need the cholesterol. And then I use the PM tonic. So 10 days before a period, this is taken. And what it actually does is it starts to raise progesterone levels, but it also helps the liver in clearing any hormones it doesn't need. So it tastes pretty awful, I have to say. You might need to put it in some juice, but it's amazing. Probably about 10 years ago now, I did have a gentleman write to me. So my client was his wife, and he said, I just have to say, thank God for PM tonic. It's amazing. I'll buy it by the bucket load. It's turned our relationship around. And that's how bad PMT can actually be. If one person in the family has it, everybody else does actually suffer. So the tincture, which means the herbs are in a liquid form, helps support the liver, helps raise progesterone. It also helps to tighten the uterus. So if periods are either a little scanty, just not really happening, it can help in that sense. But also if they're really floody, perhaps dark brown, perhaps clots, it can actually help to clear any uterine congestion. So it's wonderful. It's also got a herb in there called cramp bark. So this actually helps with that aching or heavy sensation that can radiate through to the back and right down to the legs as well. So it helps to clear all of that. And generally what I find happens is when people start taking this, for the first cycle, maybe two, they don't perhaps notice anything too much. And then at some point in the first 3 months, they get the mother of all periods. So it's quite heavy, quite uncomfortable, and feel wiped out. At that point, I normally get phone calls, but I do normally warn people first that this generally does happen. And it's a bit like the body just has a really good flush out, just like with the bowel, you might have diarrhea, and it resets the system. So it helps to reset the communication between the endocrine glands. So there's herbs in there that actually support the pituitary, and it's the pituitary gland that's controlling your follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone, and that's what regulates the whole cycle. So at some point you might have a bad time with it, but keep going, because actually if it's taken for a minimum of 3 months, it really works wonders. So one 300ml bottle, I think, is going to last 2 or 3 menstrual cycles. So it does work really well. But obviously that does need to be in combination with a healthy diet and also exercise. So we need movement, we need flow to the pelvic region, because actually that can help with people that have the PMT or PMSH, which is this hyperhidrosis where there's water retention. Other things that can help are ensuring that you're drinking enough water and also having enough electrolytes. So generally I suggest adding salt to your water, which sounds quite counterproductive, doesn't it? If you're dehydrated, therefore your tissues are swelling, and I'm telling you to use salt. But actually Google Sole, S-O-L-E, and Himalayan salt, because generally we use that. And it can work wonders at helping people whose tissues are really swelling leading up to a period. Now, for those people who have bowel problems, so that means that the bowels aren't moving, and then right at the point of having a period, they might get quite loose bowels. Generally, those people are low in progesterone. So again, the seed cycling can be very beneficial for that. And also we find that colonic hydrotherapy can just reset the bowel. So by having a colonic, and generally we suggest normally more than one, to really reset the bowel, but it helps to reshape the colon. And it also helps the people whose bacteria can go out of balance and they get quite windy leading up to a period. For the ladies that find they get thrushy, it's to do with pH changes. So the PM tonic can really help with that. But something else that we find useful is Optibac probiotics, but it's called Intimate Flora. It's a purple packet that we have, which is for women only. And that is amazing for people that find that they just get thrushy, or even after intercourse they're getting thrushy. That can work too. So I was talking about appropriate testing as well, because some people just don't know what's happening with their cycle. They find that it's 2 weeks long, it's 6 weeks long, it's 8 weeks long, quite a few months have gone by, and then finally it comes back again. So it's difficult if you're not sure what's happening, and generally I would suggest that you do some appropriate testing there. So one of the tests that we do for that is a urine test, and it's called Dutch testing, which the D and the U stand for dried urine. And dried urine test, comprehensive hormones, something like that. And it's samples that you collect of urine, and it's looking at the metabolites in the urine. So we can look at the sex hormones like your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and we can look at the precursors. So precursors are things like your cholesterol, your pregnenolone is another hormone, and another one is DHEA. And these are the ones that give you energy, basically. So it looks at the metabolites in your urine of your hormone production and usage. It's a really comprehensive test. It's amazing, actually. It's probably the best one on the market, because you get a really good idea of what's happening throughout your whole cycle. And from that information, then we can put the relevant support in place. But for those who don't want to do any testing and just really want to try to regulate their cycle, do try the PM tonic and the other things that I've suggested, because they are really useful and they do work. This is generally what I do with clients, and they see great results. PMT is actually one of the easiest things to sort out, which sounds amazing if you're suffering from it really badly. But yeah, we can help. Put those things in place if it's working well for you, or if it's not, do leave a comment and let me know, and I'll try and work with you and give you some advice. Okay, bye for now. How do I turn off? There we go. Bye for now.